Well, good morning. This is the 11th or 12th performance of This Is Us, and This Is Us. And we actually got it more or less on the right day. I guess we
No,
didn't.
we didn't.
Well, Maria
missed-
blew. It's Maria's fault. Maria blew
It
Friday.
was definitely my fault. I was not in a good place on Friday, but we're here now.
And Maria just said to me, "Fix your hair." and I looked at it, and she cracked up. Of course, she was joking. That rascal, she has quite the sense of humor. All right, so today I think we're going to talk about, what's the right word? I call it sometimes learning to love yourself, learning to like yourself, learning to respect yourself. Talked about the problem people have when they think poorly of themselves, especially people who've been kicked around at some point and come to feel badly, and that infects their life. So we have both worked in different ways and times to learn to think better of ourselves. Love the word is a little bit of a tricky word, love ourselves. But I see it as part of authenticity, of my working really hard to know who I am. And who I am was in some ways worse than I thought, and in some ways better. But it has really helped me to figure out who I am, which has been a really good move. So go ahead.
What I liked about when you said it to me the other day, and what I liked about it is you said you have to learn to love not only the parts of yourself that you like, but all of yourself, even those parts that you don't like. And it doesn't mean you have to, if you don't like parts about yourself that you can't change them, but to, I think when we find, when there's a part of, like, say, a part of ourselves that we don't like, we'll push it away, we'll ignore it, we'll pretend it's not really there or it's not really us. And when you embrace it instead and say, okay, yes, this is actually a part of myself, and take responsibility for that, and then you can learn, then you can say, okay, where did this come from, or try and figure it out a little, or figure out what to do about it.
And it's tied into a lot of different things. It's tied into the ideas of forgiveness, of being at peace with yourself, of being authentic. And what I was saying to Maria, what I was seeing in her is a person who, like me, in many points in my life, didn't really know who she was. I mean, to hear her talk and think, she really was, kind of a fearful mess who couldn't do anything, and who doesn't contribute enough. In fact, Maria, if she contributed anything more, she'd blow up. And I think the same thing with me. I looked at in meditation and all, when I started doing it, and I said, well, who am I really? Who am I really? And I didn't know myself. I didn't have it, and not have the chance. No one told me to do it. I never thought about it. And I found a lot of things about myself that really needed to change, and a lot of things about myself that needed to make me proud. And that made a huge difference in my life. And that's what she and I were talking about, that I felt like she didn't really know who she was. She's an amazing person, incredibly skilled, incredibly caring, blah, blah, blah. I don't want her to throw up. Right? She hates praise, as you can tell. But she didn't know that. And I knew it. I could see it. And so the challenge is, how do you do it? In my case, meditation brought me to that, because I was able to look at myself honestly for the first time and say, wow, you're kind of a mess in many ways. You're a mess. But also, you're kind of amazing in many ways. I had 5-time best-selling New York Times books in a couple of years, and was running a television network program. So I was essentially, I thought, a pretty good person. But that didn't come through. I had a lot of anger in me. I had a lot of selfishness in me. I had a lot of fear in me. So learning who I was helped to deal with all of those things. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, I think this past week when we were talking about this, I kind of went back to a bad place. It was an old place and a bad place that I went back to. I think mostly at this point in my life, I feel pretty good about myself. I mean, I love our life together. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I'm very happy with my life, but there are definitely things that I feel, are lacking, or lacking in me. And they really do come out mostly when I'm kind of triggered and go back to an old place. But there are things that there's still things that I'm working on and need to work on. I mean, I think that idea of loving yourself, it's a hard one, because it sounds so sappy and cliche
and selfish.
and
aggrandizing.
I guess so. I mean, but although I don't really think of it that much in that way. It just seems like a new agey kind of, wishy-washy
I don't think
thing.
either one of us is new agey, I have to say.
Well,
Or maybe we are.
I think the truth is that it's not, and when you say, the other day I came up with this after we were talking about it on Friday. This mantra just popped into my head, and the first line was, "I love myself." And it felt like weird. It felt weird for me to be saying that to myself. And that's why I thought, okay, it feels weird. This is something I need to do. And so I wrote it down, and I think I think it is something that's good to be able to say. Not, oh, I'm in love with myself. I'm wonderful. Look at me. Aren't I great?
I'm in love with you. I'll take care of that.
But I love myself. I love myself for who I am. And that's with the faults. And that's not saying I'm perfect. It's saying I love myself the way I am, and with the good parts and the bad parts. And I think that's an important thing to be able to do.
It is,
I'm not sure where it goes yet.
I think it's going already. You made a huge, big difference just having that conversation in terms of you're seeing yourself in a clearer way. And as you said, it's not about how much you love yourself. Loving yourself means knowing yourself and loving all the parts of yourself, some of which are not good. It should be said, I think, both of us have had some experience with abuse. And we find out in our lives, a lot of people have had some experience with abuse, many, many more than we would have thought. And one of the consequences of abuse, one of the symptoms of it, is you end up kind of hating yourself. You blame yourself for what happened. I must have done something wrong. It must have been my problem. I must have been a bad kid. And you carry that into adulthood. That's how you shape yourself, blaming yourself for things that happen that are really just life. And I think that's a tough thing to beat. It takes a lot of work, a lot of support. We're both blessed, really, in that we both have been through this and can help each other and understand what it's like, rather than hide from it or run from it or whatever. But I think it's essential, really, to me also. When I started the blog, I promised myself the blog was going to be honest. It's going to be authentic. I was going to tell the truth. Everywhere I looked on social media, people are blowing themselves up and telling themselves how great they are and making themselves better than they are. And I didn't want to do that. So when I had breakdowns, when I had depression, whatever, I wrote about it. That was tough. It was tough on my family. It was tough on a lot of other people. But it really helped me to feel authentic and honest finally. That was a great boon for me. And I think it has to do with honesty. I mean, I was saying to Maria, you're just not honest about yourself if you think you're not these, all these valuable things. You're just not being honest.
You have to be honest not only in being able to see the bad parts of yourself, but being able to see the good parts of yourself and be honest about it and say, yeah, this is true. I am good in this way. And again, it's not about saying I'm great. Look at me, aren't I wonderful? It's about just being, like you say, just being honest. Yeah, this is the truth. And it doesn't have to be any more than that or any less than that.
And when you look at your accomplishments in terms of building a new life for yourself, coming off of what you came off of, your creativity, your work, your farm, the animals, your friends, me, all of it. You've done everything you really wanted to do and are doing everything you really wanted to do. It's not a perfect life. Nobody's shooting for that. It's a really good life. It's a rich life. It's an honest life. And it's a meaningful life. And I think that comes from really stopping and looking inside of yourself and just being honest.
And also knowing what you really want. I mean, for a long time I didn't know what I wanted. And I couldn't say what I wanted. And I was very, very open and easy to kind of shape because of that. But once I got in touch with what was really important to me, with what was going on inside of me, then I was able to say, you know what, my art is something that's really important to me, and I'm not. It's going to be the thing that really drives me, and I'm never going to give it up.
Don't get in the way of Maria and her. I'll tell you that right now.
But it took me years to be able to get to that point.
I don't know, honey. The minute I met you, you were on that road.
Well, that was
and you
years.
never got off it.
I was already in my late 40s when I met you. So, that's a long time.
I didn't want to get run over by stepping in front of her. And I admire that. And that's good good with me. It's good for me. I've always understood that the strength of a woman is good for the men. The stronger the woman is, the happier the woman is, the better the marriage, the better the relationship. And I think many of them have not figured out that that's good for them. They think they're giving up power, but in fact they're gaining power because they get the power to live their lives too.
And look at us, the way we get to live, because we don't have the traditional roles that people play in a marriage.
And we keep switching them all the time.
We keep switching them all the time, and we each do what we can do and what we need to do in order to make this life here.
I have to tell you, we had another rat attack, rat and mice, something invading the kitchen. And so yesterday, Maria took out her tools and basically rebuilt
Well, I did is I put up some flashing.
You had this huge roll of metal, and she takes out her cutting it and sawing it and drilling it, and kind of rebuilt the whole floor bottom part of the.
Well, let's hope.
And I sort of went and went online. It's like nothing I could do. And this morning, when the men, we had a leak in the basement, the heater was leaking, and the repair guys came, and I said, do I have to talk to them? And she said, no, I'll talk to them. And she knew exactly what to tell them. I didn't even know what to tell them. And they came, and they instinctively knew to talk to her and not to even look for me. But that's a gender reversal, especially up here. Men really don't do that. But it's really been great for me because I can just be me. I'm not a person who knows how to do that stuff.
And there's so many things that you are so good at and that you do that I'm not good at and that I don't like doing. So, it really, you have to be able, that's, I think, part of that, being honest about yourself too, to say we don't have to fit into these roles. We don't have to, we don't have to be someone that is, with this idea in our head, or so that we were
We don't have to have Thanksgiving dinner with our families every year because everybody else does, and so we don't.
But that's a matter of going inside of yourself and knowing yourself and knowing what you really want, and then being able to to stand up for it.
And it works in minor ways. Yeah, that's right. It works in minor ways. My meditation, I was thinking about my wearing hats all the time. Why am I wearing hats all the time? And I said, who am I kidding? I don't have any hair. But I always was a little embarrassed because I got quite this bald. I always had a lot of hair. And I said this morning, I'm not wearing hats anymore on our meetings, on our videos. I'm not fooling anybody, and it's a sign of my, trying to be something I'm really not.
Except in the winter when it's cold.
Well, oh yeah, I love my hats. I wear my hats all the time, but I don't need to put them on when I'm in here
in the summer.
Summer and talking to you guys. So I do love my hats. When you're bald and you need your hats in the winter badly,
or in the summer.
Hot. But I think, and this is not something you do with the wave of a wand. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of discussion. And I think over the years we've been together, we're still working at it.
We're still working at it, but the thing is, we both want to do it, and we both want to help each other do it. And that makes a really big difference, because if you're doing it by yourself and you're with a person who doesn't want to participate in it, it makes it so much harder.
It was a big window opener for me with Maria one of these days. Maria cries a lot. I write about that. And I think her emotions, she shows a lot of emotion. But I realized recently that when she cries, it's actually because she's feeling bad about herself. She feels bad for feeling bad. She feels bad for being upset. She feels bad for not being perfect. She feels bad for not being rich or donating, quote, donating more, as she puts it. Contributing more, as she puts it. And I realized that it was just the opposite. It was a sign that she was kind of trashing herself for being upset, for being unhappy.
Although there were times where it's a good thing or an emotion.
Oh yeah, no, you
but no, it's like there are definitely times, and it does. You're right. I had never really noticed that, but it comes out of feeling bad about myself.
So we're doing well. We're working on that, and I think we've come a long, long way. We have a ways to go, but I think we're both, for the first time in my life, I'm absolutely happy with what I'm doing. I don't want to be anywhere else. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to be with anybody else. And that's incredibly liberating. I spent my whole life wanting to be in a different place, a different job, whatever. And I've landed. And I think Maria's done the same thing. I think
definitely have done that. I just wanted to make one
more
point.
Go ahead, please.
About you that I thought was really interesting, about being honest about yourself. Well, you got these books for this kid that has ADHD.
The book is backwards. I love it.
And you started reading it, and there you are seeing yourself in
Oh
it.
my God. It was just,
And you're like, oh, this is, and I'm like, you need to read that book before you give it away.
I know.
Because, and these things that have plagued you your whole life that you see are, quite common for certain people whose brains work a certain way. And that, again, you don't have to feel bad about that. So even now, like you're learning about yourself, and that's the honesty, right? And then you can love yourself, and you can say, well, it isn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong.
This kid says he can't, he's no good at mechanics, and he doesn't know what exists if he's not looking at it. It doesn't exist. I said, oh my
That's
God.
you.
That's what I mean. He also has spent a lot of his life being angry at everybody. He carried this anger around, and you could see it on the blog. A lot of people saw it on the blog. That I could get angry all the time at people who I thought were making fun of me or attack, rather than just ignoring them or moving on or writing it off as part of the life, which is more or less what I do now. I sometimes will get pissed off and go after somebody, but it's really incredibly faded. I don't really bother with that much anymore, and so they're not bothering with me much anymore. And I think that's how you get to a happier place. But you can't do that if you can't take an honest look at yourself. And one of that look for me was, why am I angry with people all the time? What's the problem? And it was me, of course, not them. And I don't, they can do what they want.
And if you don't like yourself, you're not going to want to look at those things,
right?
Because it's gonna be upsetting. It's gonna be upsetting to see that. But if you can say, oh, I love me the way I am, and look at the things about you that are, you're not happy with, it makes it a little easier.
And we're both, I think, makes us happier with who we are. Because the more you know yourself, the more you can appreciate. I see it more as a matter of respect, even than love. And the love thing is, whatever happens in my life now, I'm going to love it. Being sick, going to the doctor, whatever. That's my life. That's part of it. I'm going to live it. And I'm not going to be whining about it, complaining about it, getting angry about it. It's my life, and I accept it. And I think those are big lessons, all that come from the strength to look at yourself and say, okay, who am I really, and who do I really want to be? And put the two of them together. I'm getting there, not there yet, on the way. And I think you're already there.
I'm definitely not there.
Well, I think you're a person of incredible accomplishment, and I really, truly admire you for it.
Well, thank you so
much. And I hope you will learn to do that for yourself.
That's very.
Blush. Now we're both going to go. No, both
All right,
go.
enough.
Let's go and throw up.
I think it's time to go. I think it's time to go.
You're getting sappy. Well, this is great. Thank you for listening to us. We will be back again with another piercing insights into our lives. What?
No, piercing.
You got something to say? You got something to say?
No, I was going to say that hopefully, other people can relate to, and it's not just about us.
Well, I think that, of course. What do you think? You think I'm being selfish? I'm only sharing this for the good of other people. Okay, thank you. Have a great weekend.
It's not the weekend. It's the week. Have a great week.
We had a rough time. We had rats. We have all kinds of stuff going on up here. And the repairman just left and all that
delay.
stuff.
Yeah, it's been ongoing.
We're good. Hang in there.
Bye.